Are you ready? Are you as excited as I am? Come on, guys! It's the interview we've all been waiting for. Not only are we getting an exclusive interview, we're also getting a book. Or, as Bob Griner prefers to call it, a memoir. For the small price of $24.99, you can read about the traumatic tale of one of America's leading crime figures. Forget about Al Capone. Who is John Gotti? This fantastic memoir details the life and crimes of Bob Griner. You know, I'm an avid reader. I'm always reading a book. Deacons at Woke United Methodist, they would like my book collection because it's very diverse. And you guys know how much the deacons love diversity. For the most part, I read nonfiction books, or as I call them, reality. I just finished reading Jeffrey Toobin's book on the trial of O.J. Simpson in the mid-90s. Those of you who are consistent users of Zoom, you probably recognize Jeff Toobin. When you're on those business meetings discussing P&L reports and sales quotas, Jeff, he's the one in the background spanking the wanker. Although my book collection is diverse, the largest part of my collection consists of books on crime. I'm obsessed with the mafia. I've got books on Michael Franzese, Joe Pistone, better known as Donnie Brasco. Of course, I've got several books on John Gotti, Frank Rosenthal, the inspiration for the movie Casino, Goodfellas, the book by Mitch Pileggi about Henry Hill. I even read the book that Henry Hill's children wrote, which gave insight on mafia life from the perspective of a mobster's kids. I really enjoy reading books on crime. But in all my years of reading, not one time, not once, have I wanted to read a book about a reefer chiefer whose only felony was trying to sneak some of Grandma's ganja into Russia for her extended vacation with Vlad Putin. I'm struggling to find the interest in this painfully boring story. Jimmy Burke stealing millions of dollars from Lufthansa? That's interesting. Joe Pistone becoming the first FBI agent to penetrate the ranks of the mafia? That's fascinating. Whitey Bulger and his ruthless reign in South Boston? That's captivating. Bob Griner sneaking a few grams into Mother Russia? That's boring. I will give credit, though, to Brittney Griner, or maybe the credit should be given to her book publisher or her management team. Either way, the timing of the release of this book, it's brilliant. The book is titled Coming Home. Book should be titled Coming Home to Mythical Oppression, because before she experienced real oppression in Mother Russia, Bob Griner claimed to be living under mythical oppression here in America. The book is going to be released on May 7th. Now, my inside sources are telling me there have been so many pre-orders placed, the publishing company, they are printing 24 copies instead of the original half dozen. That's how much demand there is for Bob Griner's memoir. Now, the release of the book, it coincides with the beginning of the WNBA regular season. Well, KC, how is that so brilliant? No one watches the WNBA. She would have been better off waiting an extra month and releasing the book during Woke Christmas in June. Yeah, that would be a pretty good idea too. All those identifiers looking for the perfect woke Christmas gift for their emotional support goat. Bob Griner's memoir, it would be a great gift. Instead though, Bobby G, she scheduled the release to coincide with the start of the WNBA season. Any normal year, I would say this was disastrous timing, but this year, the beginning of pretend basketball, it is going to be elevated because of Caitlin Clark. There will be a record number of eyes on the WNBA dump. I guess Bob Griner is looking to capitalize on all that free publicity, hoping it will sell copies of her traumatic experience with Vlad Putin. To promote the release of her book, Brittney Griner, she sat down for an exclusive interview with Robin Roberts. The full interview, it's going to be released later tonight on 2020, but Robin Roberts, she gave us an exclusive sneak peek this morning on Good Morning America. Didn't take very long for me to figure out why this book was written. Obviously, the primary reason that Bob Griner is releasing this book is money. As you guys know, dump divers in the WNBA, they're making minimum wage. Like I told you before, most WNBA dump divers, they have side jobs to make extra money. Kelsey Plum, lead plumber in the WNBA dump. Brianna Stewart, lead chef in the cafeteria, known more for her famous brie stew than being a semi-professional basketball player. Natasha Cloud is a part-time political activist during the off-season. And now we have Bob Griner moonlighting as an author. Money is the primary motivator for the release of this memoir, but didn't take me long to figure out her secondary motivation. Seems to me that Bob Griner is pleading for your sympathy. Couple of minutes into the interview, Bobby G was already breaking down into tears. She claimed that she was crying because she let everyone down. I don't remember people feeling let down when Bob was incarcerated. I seem to remember a lot of people being let down when John Biden sent Vlad Puder, a professional criminal, in exchange for the release of Bob Griner. John Biden, he sent Vlad a Rolex while Vlad sent us a Timex. Bob, she detailed the traumatizing experience of spending months in a Russian prison camp. You will never believe what they made her do there. I mean, this is bad. It's inhumane. While at the prison camp, the Russians, they made it a requirement for Bob Griner to work. Yeah. For the first time in her life, Brittney Griner, she had to perform manual labor. You know, maybe I am being too harsh. Maybe Bob Griner isn't really pleading for your sympathy. I'll let you decide. I compiled the highlights of the interview. Watch it for yourself.
You felt that you let down yourself, your family, your teams. Yeah. So how did you work through that, what you called this guilt that you were feeling?
I don't think I really gotten through all the way. At the end of the day, it's my fault, and I let everybody down.
What were the conditions like in that particular jail?
The mattress had a huge blood stain on it, and they give you these thin 2 sheets, so you're basically laying on bars.
You were only allowed 1 roll of toilet paper that had to last you a month.
There was like 2-3 months where we didn't get anything.
And the toothpaste had expired, what, 15 years?
It was like 15 years ago.
And where you're heading to, it's called IK2?
IK2.
Known as one of the worst prisons in Russia. What were the conditions like there?
It's a work camp. You go there to work. There's no rest.
People knew you for so long with the dreadlocks.
Yeah.
You decided to cut them. What was that like, losing that part of you too?
Honestly, it just had to happen. We had spiders above my bed, making nests. My dread started to freeze.
All kidding aside, I'm sure it was a traumatic experience for Brittney Griner to spend 9 or 10 months in a Russian prison. You're in a foreign country, you don't speak the language, and to her credit, Brittney Griner actually took responsibility for her actions. She didn't blame the system in Russia. She didn't play the race card and claim to be a victim of mythical racism. Bob Griner admitted, I fucked up. I had a mental lapse. And to be honest with you, Brittney Griner hasn't really been anti-American since returning home from her vacation with Vlad Puder. Seems like the months that she spent in Mother Russia opened her eyes to how great she has it living in America. The problem, though, for Brittney Griner, the problem with trying to play the sympathy card, I don't think most people are buying it. I know something else most people aren't buying, her book. America is a forgiving country. Americans are usually willing to forgive and forget a lot of things, but when it comes to disrespecting the military, when it comes to disrespecting the national anthem, there's a lot of Americans who just aren't willing to forget about it. They might forgive, but they're not forgetting. It's been 4 years since LeBron James kneeled for the national anthem. Been 4 years since LeBron turned NBA courts into a shrine to Black Lives Matter. For the most part, LeBron has remained silent on political and social issues. Seriously, when is the last time you've heard about LeBron James mentioning anything political? Yet here we are, 4 years later, and people still aren't watching the NBA. LeBron James is still one of the most polarizing players in the league. Brittney Griner might have a new appreciation for America, but that doesn't mean Americans have forgotten how Bob Griner disrespected America. Gonna be interesting to see how this book performs. If I remember correctly, the last memoir that was published by a professional victim, it was the memoir written by Jemele Hill. What was that book called? Upended or upset, uphill. I know what it wasn't. It wasn't up on top of the charts because Smelly Jemele, she couldn't give away free copies. Remember when she got on Twitter and told her lonely followers that she left a free signed copy in the bookstore at the San Francisco airport? You guys remember that? That damn book stayed in the bookstore for so long, the janitors, they eventually just threw it away. Jemele Hill couldn't convince people to take free copies, much less convince people to part with their hard-earned money for this polished turd. I think Jemele Hill ended up selling less than 5,000 copies. I could see the same exact thing happening to Bob Griner. She's going to receive the same support from the mainstream media that Jemele Hill received. I remember when Smelly Jemele was approaching her release date, she was invited to every mainstream show. She visited with the Yentas on The View. I think she was on Good Morning America. I would imagine that Oprah's Gardner Gayle King invited her to appear on CBS This Morning. Now, Bob Griner, she might not have the time to make all those media appearances. She's in the middle of training camp. This is the time of year where veteran dump divers like Bob Griner teach rookie dump divers how to properly pick up those heavy garbage cans without throwing out their back. Lift with your legs, rookie. Don't lift with your back. Even though she might not have the time to make appearances, Brittney Griner, she will receive loads of free promotion from the mainstream media. Hell, it's already happening right now. From that 7-minute segment this morning on Good Morning America, there's already been free promotion from Yahoo Sports, The Athletic, USA Today, Us Weekly. Bobby G is going to be supported by the media, but the question is, will that support translate to book sales? I don't see it happening. For starters, the story isn't even remotely interesting. I mean, who cares what it was like in prison? We already know prison sucks. The crime that puts you in prison isn't a crime in America. So it's not like this is some exciting story that will convince people to buy the book. Obviously, the second problem is the author. I just don't see most people giving their money to support Brittney Griner, but I could be wrong. You tell me. Brittney Griner goes on Good Morning America, and I thought she was pleading for your sympathy. What about you? Also, do you think this book will be a bestseller? Sound off in the comments below. Like, subscribe, share the video. Appreciate your support. Best way to contact me is by email at btlkc84@gmail.com, KC_BTL84 on Twitter, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.